something, pick a different route. If you're gonna make that change, there's no better time than now. Be boundless. First I gotta get up off this futon, get my bags packed tight, put my shoes on.
So the question has been asked to me many times, how do you support yourself here in Thailand? It's becoming more and more apparent to me that YouTube is run by children. Because while I was growing up, I was taught that it's not polite to ask people about money. I can also tell that YouTube is run by children because of the retardation level in the comments section. And I imagine most of them are from America, which makes me proud to be American. I think it's a fair question though, because one of the themes of my channel is alternative lifestyle. You know, how can you live in a way that isn't the 9 to 5, just like everybody else does? I remember when I turned 30, it was the year 2005, and I remember turning 30, I thought, fuck, I'm getting old. Because up until that, I had been in my 20s, and to have a 3 in front of my age, you know, the number for my age, I just felt like I was getting old. And I remember sitting on the floor in my little apartment in Kobe, thinking, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. At that time, I was an English teacher. I was employed at a school in Kobe, and they were paying me about $2,500 a month. And what I had done up until that point in my life, pretty much ever since I finished school and came to Japan, so I came to Japan when I was 24, and what I had done up until that point in my life is I would save money. I'd usually save about $10,000, and then I'd spend it. I'd go on a trip, or I'd buy something that I wanted, but I'd always spend the $10,000, and I did that many, many times up until I was 30. So when I was 30, I had nothing in my savings account. Maybe I had $5,000. And I remember sitting there on the floor in the kitchen in my little tiny apartment, which was the size of a hamster cage, thinking, I don't want to live the rest of my life like this, just getting by month by month. The first thing I did was I went to the library and I got a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think that's the title, and I read that book. I mean, I read a lot of books on finance, but I think that book had the most impact. And it's not a very technical book. It's a layman's book, a book anybody can relate to, but a lot of the concepts in that book were very powerful, and I started practicing what that book recommended. Now, I don't remember now because I read that book over 10 years ago, but one of the concepts is save a part of your salary every month. Never buy things if you can't pay for them in cash. Just really easy concepts that a lot of Americans can't even conceive of living by. And apparently a lot of Americans don't live by those concepts. They get credit cards and they spend more money than they have, and then they get into this giant snowball of debt. So I started employing these concepts into my life. The first thing I did is I picked up a second job. I started working on the weekends, and I was really fortunate because I got a job at an events company, and it literally paid me a month's salary for working 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday. Now I had to sacrifice my weekends, and I had to get up early and usually work half the day or the whole day, but the hourly wage for that job was extraordinary, and I was really fortunate to get that job. Now after I quit that job in Kobe that was paying me $2,500 a month, I started my own business teaching English. And what I would do is I would go to the train stations in my area and I would hand out 1,000 flyers every night. And usually out of 1,000 flyers, I'd get one person who was interested in studying English. I remember I taught a group of about 8 people and each of them were paying $15 for that lesson. So, that was like I was making $120 an hour just to teach that one class. And then I had other students, some were paying like a one-on-one, they'd pay $30 an hour. Or I'd teach 2 people at a time and I'd charge them $40 an hour. I got a lot of opportunities from doing that. I eventually built an income of about, it varied between $1,500 and $2,000 a month, and that was just from my own private students. And then I also got another job, which I ended up working for about 9 years in total. It was in the mountains of Kobe at a children's eikaiwa. I just had good vibes with the owner of that school. Our personalities meshed and we had a good trust factor between us. And as a matter of fact, when I left Japan this year, she said, you're welcome to come back and work here when you come back to Japan. You have a job when you come back, which was a huge security blanket, taking this venture into a new life here in Thailand. So I was really fortunate to meet that lady as well. So I had 3 jobs. I had 3 streams of income. And then in 2011, I started this YouTube channel, and that started creating income for me as well. But it wasn't significant or anything. But I never touched that money. I didn't need to because I had 3 other streams of income. So if you think about it, it's like I had 2 full-time jobs, one full-time job being my own students. So I was making between $1,500 and $2,000 a month from that. Then I had that weekend job, which even though I was just working 2 days a week, I was making a full-time income from that, anywhere from $1,500 to $4,000 a month for that job. And then I had my other job, my third job, which was like a part-time job. I think maybe I worked between 7 and 12 hours a week teaching kids. So that worked out to like between $800 and $1,200 a month. And you may have seen some of my previous videos of me breaking down my living expenses there in Japan, and I was living off of somewhere between $800 to $1,500 a month, but I was making much more than that. So I was saving thousands and thousands of dollars every month, and I started when I was 30 and I'm 41 now. So because I was able to live frugally and I never bought things that I couldn't afford, I didn't have any debt, any loans. I regret that I didn't buy property, but at the same time I had all this cash coming in and I was just saving and saving. And then I think in I can't remember what year it was, maybe in about 2008, 2009, I started getting into investing. So I had large sums of money and I started investing my money for long-term investments. And I was just, like going back to that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was employing those concepts. If you read that book and you study it, you learn how just saving your money and using it wisely, just with a middle class income, you can produce a lot of money in the long term. The way I organize it is I have a tier of bank accounts. For example, I have like my biggest bank account, which I have invested long term. So it's like low risk investments with a long term yield. That's something I don't plan to touch for at least 10 years. I also have a Roth IRA. I also have another savings account, which is for middle to high risk investments. Just from that bank account alone, I can generate enough money that I need to in a year. I have two more accounts, one in Japan and another one in America, that is just cash in the bank. And then I have another account that's in America, which all my money from YouTube goes to, which again, I said I never touched ever since I started YouTube. I did touch it once. When I went to Mexico for 3 months, I used, that was all paid for by the money I made from YouTube. It's not like I don't make a lot of money on YouTube, but to be honest with you, but I just never touch it. So it's added up to a lot. But now that my channel is growing, it is a little bit significant. Like, I could pay for my living expenses here in Thailand from the money I make from YouTube, because my living expenses here are not so high. So people say that I'm broke, or that I don't work, or that I'm lazy, or I'm poor. I don't know why they assume that. I worked really hard in Japan. But you know what? I do know why they say that. It doesn't matter what good you're doing in life, because of people's own insecurities, they're gonna put you down. And the thing is I realize that, and I don't let it get to me. It doesn't get to me. One thing that's been hard for me to adapt to is when I lived in Japan, I had more money than I needed, and that was very comforting to have that safety net. Whereas now I don't have that. It's like my whole life system has changed. I was in a system before where I was producing more money than I needed. I went from that kind of a system to the current living system I'm in now, which is I'm just kind of breaking even and I'm not making excessive money. So that has been a huge psychological hurdle. It is possible that I could work again, but I'm definitely not in a desperate situation where I have to work, and that makes all the difference in the world. I see guys who are retired here, and I know they have pensions, and they're getting thousands of dollars in the bank. Or there's even young guys who went into the military when they were 18, and they put in 20 years of service, and they're still in their 30s when they retire, and they're getting, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. Man, you can live like a king with that kind of money over here. If you can hold off on those things that will give you instant gratification, and you can prolong that, it'll pay off in the end. Anyways, guys, I am not a financial guru or even a millionaire. I just learned how to manage my money, and anybody can do it. When I was 30, I was like, okay, well, I'm 30, I'm pretty much broke. And I can't really change that, but I can change what kind of 40-year-old man I want to be. And I did it. There are guys my age who are literally multi-billionaires. They make more money in one day than I'll probably ever make in my life. But that's okay. I'm a very humble person. I don't need a lot, just the basic comforts in life. And I'm so thankful for what I have. I wake up in the morning and I can spend the day any way I like. I can go down the street here and I'm at the beach. In the evenings, I can go for a swim in the swimming pool. I eat healthy fruits and vegetables. I feel so happy here. I feel like I sacrificed a lot to get to where I am, and I'm so grateful for what I have. Wrapping this video up, guys, let me know in the comments section, what is the minimum monthly amount of money you would need to walk away from your job and live your dream life? Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.
Better do something, pick a different route. If you're gonna make that change, there's no better time than now. Be boundless. Take a step outside, stretch my arms out wide, like I'm on the Titanic. I won't sink as long as I'm on this wing.